everybody.
Hi, guys. Well, from gloomy Salt Lake City, Utah.
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
The podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up today, we have an interview. We don't do those all the time, but we've got a good one for you.
Yeah.
One Mr.
Michael Ferguson. Dr. Michael Ferguson. He's a neuroscientist. He studies your neurons.
Fancy.
Yeah.
And but yeah, he's got some great things to talk about.
He was part of a huge research study that just came out, made some headlines about what the brain does.
Yeah.
This is your brain on religion.
When you're feeling spiritual.
When you're feeling so spiritual. It's just about what happens in your old noodle.
Yeah, and so there's that, and then we've got all the regular stuff for y'all.
Oh, it's not regular.
Coming right up.
I have a warning for you.
Right
now. This is beyond regular.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
What have you got? That's terrifying.
The Earth is going to end.
Oh, no.
Apocalypse, my friend.
In a few billion years or something, right?
2016 is the last year before the Christian everything comes to a head.
Wow. And this time they're sure.
They're sure because of computers.
Oh.
They've used computers on this one. I don't see how it could go wrong.
Now they've got it figured out.
A person named Nora Roth, she's a programmer.
Oh.
She has performed complex calculations, apparently.
Sure, yeah.
You know, as you do, based on... Apparently, there's a thing in the book of Daniel, my favorite book in the
Why
Bible.
is that?
It's just named well, I think. I think it's just a good, solid name for a book.
Huh, okay.
Anyway, in that book, there is a mention... there's a lot of, dream interpretation and stuff in Daniel. There's a lot of, kooky prophesying and whatever.
Oh.
And one of the prophecies in Daniel is that there are 77s that are decreed
70
to put an end to sin. The 77s,
okay,
which is so it's so crazy. It doesn't mean anything, which means it can mean whatever you want it to mean.
Wow.
77s. Thankfully, Ms. Roth has given us an answer as to what that means.
She figured it out. Wow.
It means that there are. It's a period of time before the Messiah comes and rids the world of sin.
Wow.
So she has interpreted that to mean 70 Jubilee cycles. A Jubilee cycle is a unit of time. So apparently the Bible says that the working...
By whose reckoning?
Oh, we'll get there. By magic. I don't know. The Bible says a working week should be 6 days long with a rest day. On Sunday or on Saturday, Friday. What is the Jewish one? Anyway, depending on who you're talking to.
Sabbath, Saturday,
Shabbat.
Yes.
So she says. So apparently, there's this larger cycle. The God told the children of Israel to plant and to harvest their land for 6 years, and then let the land rest for a seventh year. Seems like less good advice. I don't know.
I don't know. That sounds. Again,
work your land, people.
No, you got to let it rest.
You do some permaculturing, you'll be fine.
Dan. Back in the day,
you just got to rotate your crops. That's what you got to do.
Well, there's that too.
So apparently, a Jubilee cycle consists of 7 of the larger units, followed by a year of rest. So that's a total of 50 years. So 70 Jubilee cycles, beginning in 1416 BC. When God's children entered Canaan, leads us to end of the world 2016 AD. Here we are.
Wow.
It's computers, people. You can't fuck that up.
Wow.
Computers don't make mistakes.
Yeah. Well, there is the whole thing of user error, though, Dan.
I just explained it to you.
And if the user is a crackpot... You're going to get a crackpot result.
I just explained.
Garbage in, garbage out.
You tell me what the flaw is in her reasoning, because I'm telling you, it sounds perfect to me.
Well, I mean...
77s, Frank. 77s.
No, I know. And there have been few things in my life that have made me quake in my boots.
Yeah.
And I have to say, 77s.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Wow. That's as serious as it gets.
Woo.
77s. All right. So, enjoy your last couple weeks, kids, because it's all over.
Yeah. Well, I have the story, Dan.
Okay.
Coming to us from a town in the UK that on the surface looks like should be an easy name to pronounce. But I'm leery. I'm not going to be sucked into the easy appearance of an English town name.
It's not in Wales. You can pronounce it. Pronounce it. Go ahead.
Calne. That's how I'm pronouncing it.
Okay. How's that spelled?
Calne. It's on the surface. It looks easy. I know it can't possibly be. They're tricking me somehow, because they always do. They do weird things with syllables you're not supposed to say.
It's actually pronounced Columnshire.
Exactly. Anyway, the people of Calne, they have broken a world record, Dan.
Oh, good for them.
This is a Guinness Book of World Record. They now hold the record for the largest nativity.
Oh,
live nativity. People participate, like actors, right? 1,254 people.
1,254 people
for this thing.
Did they all have towels on their heads?
They all had to be in some sort of costume.
Okay.
I guess a lot of them showed up already in costume.
Oh, good.
And others were provided with costumes. They had a very simple counting system where everybody got a wristband.
Oh, okay.
And they knew how many wristbands they'd given out. It was all very official. They must have had representatives from Guinness there.
The wristbands must have represented the bands that Joseph and Mary wore on their wrists.
Yeah, well, I'm also
they entered Nazareth or whatever. Is that where they were?
Bethlehem.
Oh yeah, that. I'm like, it's one of those things.
Jesus grew up in Nazareth, right.
Yeah.
He was the Nazarene.
Yeah, he was.
Right. Beyond that, I don't know much about him. However,
yes.
Do you know who had the record?
This? The town from whom this was stolen?
It doesn't say the actual town.
Oh, it's a person.
No.
Okay.
It's a state.
Oh,
that's
okay.
mentioned.
I'm gonna guess Pennsylvania.
No, Utah.
Oh,
they took it from us, Dan.
Oh no!
In 2014. The good people of our state rounded up 1,039 people.
Oh, I think I remember this.
Yeah,
I think we talked about this.
About it. We did.
They took it from us.
All I'm saying is, it's a decent-sized city that we live in. I think these motherfuckers...
They need to go down.
They need to go down. But we need to do it in splendid
fashion.
Just crush them.
Yeah.
Round up like 5,000,
like
500,000 people. 500,000 people.
We're just going to get everybody in on
all
this.
of Utah County.
No one's going to break this one.
All they have to do is they have to step out of their house dressed in costume.
We're going to
walk around.
We're going to shine a big light that represents the star from the Y from the Y rock on the mountain.
Yeah,
representing BYU.
This is not hard.
And
we
will
can do this.
We can wreck them. We will destroy them in Kralum England.
In Carn. That was one of the suggested pronunciations. I don't know why.
With an R?
With an R.
Okay.
That's why I was like, oh shit, I think this is bad. And
one of our British listeners will surely.
Oh, they'll correct us,
let
I'm
us know.
sure. But yeah, big nativity. It begs the question as to why.
No.
And also, Seriously. I think it's a little bit of overkill for a nativity. Because how many roles, how many parts are there to be played in a nativity?
I mean, you think about it. You got, because in the main story itself, you got like 7 or 8 people.
Yeah, that's it.
But in the larger Bethlehem region, the greater metropolitan Bethlehem area.
Yeah.
I mean, we may have to go beyond that because Bethlehem was probably like a small little. It was probably like 600 people. So
a hamlet.
It was just a baby.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe we have to expand to like sort of the county. You know, the city of David. I guess the greater Davidian notion. By the way, I'm gonna start a band called the Greater Davidian Notion. I hope you guys buy our album.
But anyway, you're talking about the greater Bethlehem area.
Eventually, you get to 1,200 people.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Okay. All right. Well, nonetheless, they did it over there in the UK.
Yeah.
I'm crying foul. Let's get back on it, people.
Yeah. Before somebody else does.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Roma. The Vatican City, the Holy See, as it were.
Why is it the Holy See?
It's the Holy See. You see what we're doing? The Catholic Church, Mr. Pope Francis, has reaffirmed, has sent the full, unabashed signal.
Okay.
That gay people, gay men, are not to be priests.
Okay. This is problematic.
Which brings up the one big question, which is, who the hell are you going to get to be your priests then?
Well, it cuts out about half of them.
At least. At least.
I don't know.
I mean, you've got a whole group of guys. I mean, let's face it. The Catholic Church tells you, if you're a gay kid, you're growing up, the Catholic Church is like, it's bad to be gay. You can't do it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And you're like, well, shit, I'm gay. What am I going to do?
Right.
And then they say, so basically that means, like, if you want to be good, if you want to please Jeebus, you can't have sex that you want to have.
Right.
Well, who doesn't have sex? Priests.
Right.
Theoretically.
Yeah, they're not supposed to.
So they go to the priesthood. Of course they do. Yeah. It's their only way to sort of work into the system.
But then they find all the sexy fun times.
Right.
With other...
In the seminary.
Yeah, with other hot priests.
They put the semen in seminary.
I don't know if that's a thing.
Well, it happens.
The seminary?
Seminary. See what I did?
I don't know about that, Dan.
I think it's good. Anywho, yes. There is a 2005 document on the subject of gay priests, which says the church, while profoundly respecting the persons in question, they
so
love to say that.
So, yeah.
They're so good at profound respect.
Yeah.
Cannot admit to the seminary or to holy orders those who practice homosexuality. Oh, there's the word, practice.
Yeah.
If you don't practice. Or, wait, oh, no, sorry, I stopped too soon. Those who practice homosexuality present deep-seated homosexual tendencies or support the so-called gay culture.
Yeah. Well, what does it mean, though, to practice homosexuality? I mean, is it... I mean, do they really just reduce it down to the sex act? Or because, like, can't somebody be celibate and be homosexual?
But are they practicing? Because you know what they say, practice makes perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know about practicing homosexuality. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Like,
at what point are you... I mean, like, if you just ogle men, is that practicing homosexuality?
Right.
Do you have to touch? Is a finger? Is that practicing? Like, come on. You got to draw some lines here,
Depends on what the finger's doing.
Right?
And where it goes.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think the onus is on the Vatican.
What are you doing
to draw those lines for us? We need to know.
They need to expound.
Yeah.
We need more detail.
Exactly.
Detail, people.
This is not. You're being too vague.
You think you're being specific,
but
you're not.
You're not.
You're not.
And you know it.
You got anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, Dan.
Yeah.
Oh, which one first? I'm going to go with a trend that apparently is happening in American hotels.
Okay.
Fewer and fewer of them are placing Bibles.
I've noticed this trend.
Yeah. This is happening.
I do a sweep pretty much every hotel I go to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
To look for the Bible?
I look for the Bible.
Well,
I know a lot of atheists who play hide the Bible. But
right.
I don't know that's I don't do that. I just look for it.
Are you familiar with a company called Marriott International?
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
That would be
a big name in Salt Lake.
A big name in hotels in general.
Yeah, well, yeah, in
worldwide.
Hotels. But I mean the Marriott name.
Yes.
Big time Mormons.
Big Mormon family.
They own
quite wealthy.
A big chain, a conglomerate of hotels. They've got a lot of different brands.
Oh yeah. Which I can never keep straight. I don't know. There's supposedly a difference between a Courtyard Marriott and a blah, blah, blah.
Are you familiar with Edition hotels?
Edition?
Edition, like the new edition of the magazine.
No, I've never been to an Edition hotel.
The Edition. There's Edition. There's Moxie. There's AC. Where was another one that was mentioned? Anyway, they have a bunch that you may not even immediately realize are Marriott. Right.
They're basically every hotel in the world is owned by one of three companies at this point.
Well, yeah. Protea, 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 maybe, I don't know. So Marriott International had made a decision earlier this year to no longer place Bibles or Books of Mormon in AC, Moxie, Protea, and Edition hotels. However, on second thought, they decided to let the Protea and Editions, or Protea and AC, get the Bibles and the Books of Mormon because they're geared more toward your traditional traveler, whereas Moxie and Edition are targeted more at millennials.
Oh,
they're supposed to be hip. They're the young hip brands. Right?
Millennials don't like that Bible stuff.
Look at that logo. Ooh. Moxie hotels.
Moxie.
Woo!
Boy, they've got a really wide X.
Oh, yeah.
The widest X you've ever seen in your life.
Apparently, a lot of hotels, they're no longer doing like the full-on nightstand. They're doing like more of a shelf thing.
Yeah.
And the Marriott has had to acknowledge that it's a lot harder to place a Bible or a Book of Mormon when there's no drawer.
Yeah.
Because and they actually say this in the article that putting the Book of Mormon on the shelf
unhidden
is a much stronger statement than putting it in the drawer.
Yeah.
And they're unwilling to do that.
To make that stronger statement.
They could ask for drawers to be put into Moxie hotels, but they're not.
That is an interesting point.
Because millennials don't like drawers.
No, millennials hate drawers.
They want shelves.
They're bad
at
shelves. They're bad at drawers. They just can't. I don't blame them. Drawers can be tricky.
Yeah. You never know. Like, how hard do I need to pull?
Yeah.
And if I close this too quickly, will it make a noise?
Right. It's too much to think about.
Yeah.
This is funny because Andrea, my wife, is, as you know, a very successful interior designer. Mm-hmm. And one of her next projects that she would like to do is like a boutique hotel.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to tell her, get rid of the drawers.
they don't like drawers
Don't give
anymore.
them the option for drawers, and then the Gideons don't have anywhere to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, no drawers.
Yeah.
Who uses drawers in a hotel room anyway?
I have a friend that I've traveled with a couple times, and she is an unpacker.
She unpacks everything, puts it all away.
I was surprised.
Hangs and drawers up all of her stuff.
Yeah.
Moves in
Yeah.
for the night.
Yeah. And I was just kind of like, well, I guess why not? I never have. I just open I usually travel with a backpack. Mm-hmm. I just open up my backpack and work out of that.
Yeah.
Ta-da! Done.
You're so immature, Frank.
But anyway, what's amazing though is that, the Marriotts, they always put the Book of Mormon in and everything.
Yeah, because that's the true revealed word of God.
In addition to a Bible.
In addition.
And now they're kind of betraying this tradition.
I think hotel chains need to start picking different books. Just like interesting stuff.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Give people an actual interesting book in their room.
Yeah. Some classics.
Yeah.
Put Great Gatsby.
Yeah. Maybe something travel related that's fun,
Well, here's the deal though.
A little bit of Hemingway maybe. I don't
The sun also rises. You don't want people to take the books, though.
No.
And the one nice thing about it being a Bible or a Book of Mormon is most people will just leave it.
Nobody gives a fuck. They don't want that. That's just clutter that they're taking home.
They either have one already.
Right.
Right? Like, this is what's never really made sense to me about this whole thing. If traveling with a Bible was important, right, to this person, they would have brought one along.
Right.
And in this day and age, if they're all that Bible-y, they probably have a Bible app on their phone.
Yeah, I take the Bible with me everywhere I go, strangely.
Do you have a Bible app?
Uh-huh.
Shut up.
Of course
you
I do. Of course I do.
Oh, my God.
Got the Book of Mormon on there, too.
I would never let my phone be defiled.
Oh, no, it's great.
Although my bookshelf.
I was in a conversation with some evangelical guy at one point, and he was like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, really? Let's look that up.
Oh, no.
I shut him the fuck down. That was awesome.
Like, what?
You're not allowed to. That's my book. That's our book. You can't have that. Yeah, really funny. I'm going to go to Judaism. Have you heard of this religion? It's a new one. They call themselves the Jews. In Jerusalem, there is Israel has chief rabbis. These are Orthodox men.
Boss rabbis.
They are the big bosses. They are in charge of what is proper, what is officially Jewish in Israel.
Oh,
and therefore, by extension, the world.
Yes. Okay.
And they have made an announcement that affects people all over the world, including at least one famous person that I'm going to tell you about.
Okay.
They have made the decision that, because here's the thing, for a long time, if you converted to Judaism, which they kind of don't really want you to do.
Oh, no. My understanding is they try to talk you out of it.
They make it very difficult to convert to Judaism. Yeah. But if you do, if you go through the whole process, if you elbow your way in.
You go through all the different forced waiting periods.
Yes, you jump through every hoop.
The process.
I don't know. You learn Hebrew and read the Torah.
Yeah,
I have no idea what you have to do to get converted.
I honestly don't either.
But it's like a years long process.
I think it's more than that. She was telling me that it was harrowing.
Yeah,
in fact,
yeah,
it was very difficult.
Yeah, don't try it. Anyway, so you go through this whole thing. Your American Orthodox rabbi gets you through the whole thing, says, waves his magic wand and says, hello, hooray, you're Jewish.
Welcome.
It's a mitzvah. Then there's this thing. So then now you're Jewish and you want to go to the Holy Land and you want to be sort of part of, you want to connect with your new people in Israel.
Oh, no. I smell something coming.
Well, these guys got to decide, are you really Jewish or are you fake Jewish? And even though you went through the whole process, they could very easily say, the rabbi that did yours, we don't count him. Fuck you, you're not Jewish.
What?
And then you're out. And at least in terms of how Israel sees you, you are not Jewish.
Oh my God!
So there has been a call for these rabbis for these chief rabbis,
head honcho.
yes, indeed, to make that process more clear and to be transparent about which rabbis, Orthodox rabbis in the U.S. can actually convert you.
Oh,
And which can't. So they have now decided that yes, they will be more transparent. They'll give you a list of the pre-approved. You know, if you don't go through the pre-approved, you're still going to be under review. There's still going to be a review process. But if you get one of the pre-approved rabbis, you'll be in good shape.
Oh, they just speed you right through.
Well, let me tell you something. This affects people. One Ivanka Trump
Oh.
is a convert to Judaism.
Oh.
She married
okay.
a guy, Jared Kushner,
Okay.
and she has converted to Judaism. So I think we're all waiting with bated breath
See if she gets kicked out.
to see if it counts.
If she gets accepted.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She has not as yet applied to Israel
To find out.
to find out if she's really a Jew.
It's so fucked up.
She could be a fake Jew.
I just love, like, you know, for me, right, growing up in a religion that's all about, come join us.
Right,
And being
right.
actually a little, because both my parents are converts.
Right.
So there's like this, you know, fake or alternate history of my family in my head sometimes of like, what if they hadn't? You know?
Right.
Like, how could my life have wound up a little different if my parents, you know, had sort of avoided the idea, like this conversion thing?
Yeah.
And so there's something just that I appreciate so much about a faith that's like, no, we don't want you.
Get the fuck out of here. You're no Jew.
No, go away. You can't just call yourself a Jew.
Which, by the way, the Mormons do.
Well, Mormons do that, but because Mormons are crazy. But like Mormons, they're like, yeah, oh please,
Join us. We need you.
and they're crazy about it,
Right.
And it's just like the most heartwarming nonsense when somebody, you know, converts.
Well, yes, indeed.
my God.
But I mean,
But sounds like the Jews are all going, oh God, really? Another one? There's another one of us now.
I mean, if you have to, I suppose we'll talk about it. But honestly, you don't. It's not. You don't want it.
Right.
You don't want it.
This you don't want.
I just feel like
It's being the Lord's chosen people is not all that it's cracked up to be.
right. He
Is
chooses
that their attitude?
He's
I mean-
very bad at choosing. The way he chooses, and then he fucks with you for millennia. He chooses you, and then he's like poke, like makes everything awful.
Yeah.
I don't know who fucked up, if it was God or if it was the Jewish people.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, he didn't choose them very well at all.
All right. Well, here's the story, Dan, of a young girl in Germany.
Yeah.
A young Muslim girl in Germany, who the highest court in the nation now, the German Constitutional Court,
Yeah.
is ordering her to take part in swimming lessons.
Half of me feels like we need to stop the story right there. Just leave it at that.
Just don't dissect it at all.
No, don't explain anything. I guess you need to, but I kind of love that. That's good just on its own. But let's go deeper. Let's go into the deep end of the story.
An 11-year-old girl, Muslim girl, who had objected to taking part in a mixed swimming class at school, which is apparently a thing in Germany that's very important.
They can require swimming.
Have to learn how to swim to go through German schools.
Oh my god!
She had argued that even a burkini, right, this full body swimsuit thing that has been popping up in Europe, is a breach of Islamic dress code. And this, because it is, the burkini reveals the shape of the body. Mm-hmm. And that goes against
She's 11?
her religion. Yeah, I mean, she's not coming up with this shit on her own.
Right,
I mean,
of
she's
course
being
not.
fed these lines.
I'm just saying, like, she doesn't even have a womanly body yet. Like,
No, she's a child.
nothing to reveal.
Right, but that's not the point.
I guess it's not.
So the Constitutional Court. Well, I mean, Germany's actually in the middle of a very serious national discussion about what to do with Islam in their nation. They Angela Merkel's government has allowed in over 1 million, something like that, Muslims coming from Syria and other war-torn
refugees.
parts of the Middle East.
Right.
And it's an incredible gesture of, I just think it's an incredible gesture to be taking these people who need to have a place in such large numbers. I mean, this is difficult for any society to absorb 1 million people.
Just an influx all of a
instantly,
sudden.
Right? So she's been facing a lot of criticism. She's actually come out now and said that she is in support of a ban of on full-face Muslim veils anywhere in Germany. Like, just they don't want it.
Right.
And so now with this whole argument going on, this Constitutional Court looked into Islam, and found that according to their interpretation, there is no binding rule in Islam to define appropriate clothing.
Oh, interesting. Fascinating.
And that's the last line of the article. Usually the last line of the article is some weird throwaway. I'm like, that's so pivotal to like what they're talking about here.
Well, that sets a precedent that will have, if you'll forgive, ripple effects. It's a swimming story. Anyway, throughout the society, I mean, now, if the Constitutional Court has declared that there is nothing in Islam that requires women to wear that, oh shit, we're going to see some trouble, son.
Yeah, because now the court is getting in there and saying that they know best about Islam itself.
Right.
They're interpreting a religion's requirements for the members of that community.
Right, but they have to, kind of, because there has to be some guiding principles, I guess, for making the laws and for enforcing the laws.
And if all German children must learn how to swim,
apparently, really, it's like super important.
Yeah.
Swim class.
I mean, knowing how to swim is important. One should know how to swim.
It's good.
No, Dan.
Many a person has gotten through life successfully without ever swimming.
I know, but I was watching the Poseidon Adventure the other night, and one of the characters yells out at one point that she can't swim, and they have to, at this point in the movie, they have to like dive down and swim underwater for like 30 seconds, dodging all this like stuff, and so they can pop up in like the engine room, right? And she couldn't swim, and I was just horrified at the idea.
Well,
like, sweetheart,
if you can't
I understand
swim,
that this
you're
was
not
a
welcome on
script,
boats. You don't get to go on boats.
This is my point.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
what is she doing? This was dangerous behavior on her part, getting onto the Poseidon to begin with.
You're putting us all in jeopardy with your non-swimming abilities. So take off that.
So I applaud the German government in forcing everyone to learn how to swim, because it makes script writers not be able to have such an easy little
way to go, landlocked country.
There.
Everyone now has to swim in the landlocked country of Germany.
Germany has they're on the sea.
I don't think so.
They have seaports at the north.
The north? Oh, maybe. Okay. Maybe just there's that sliver at the top.
There's that whole stretch.
I was thinking the south.
Goes
but
from Denmark all the way over to what would that be?
Poland.
Poland.
Yes. So I thank you guys for listening to Geography Talk with Frank and Dan. If you'd like to write into us about anything that we've said, geographically or otherwise, on our show today, and I've just looked it up. There's plenty of coastline.
Yeah, there's a lot
up in the north. I was thinking the south. I wasn't actually considering the north. There you go.
There are more parts to Germany than the south.
Yeah, it's a big country. Please feel free to write into us, podcast at thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you can call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
And while you're on Facebook, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It's a closed group, so we do have to let you in, but we might do that.
Well, yes.
If we like you.
We'll let you in. We're kind that way.
Hey, Dan.
Yo.
We got a little clip of audio I think we should play.
Oh, yes. This is one Mr. Gordon Klingenschmidt.
Ugh, it's a dumb name.
Which actually, I don't know how good your German is, but Klingenschmidt is actually German for that little piece of poo that won't fall.
Oh, a dingleberry.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a Klingenschmidt.
German for dingleberry. How fitting.
Indeed. He's a guy that looks like he belongs on the wrong side of an episode of X-Files. But he's
very high forehead.
His head is 60% forehead. It's like 60 to 80% forehead.
How does that even work?
It's just, and then his face,
very little chin, kind of a scrunched little face.
It's a square head.
Yeah,
almost all forehead. Might be pug related. I'm not sure. Facially,
yeah.
Anyway,
I wonder what kanji his face makes.
He's the important thing is that he's got a message for us.
There are demonic spirits inside of some normal people, maybe even advertising executives at Zales Jewelers, who are now being given a choice. Should they listen to the Spirit of God, who would tell them to use their business in a way that promotes godly marriage and biblical values? I mean, they have a great opportunity. They sell diamonds that help people commit to each other. And yet, if that is a homosexual commitment, it is the opposite of a godly marriage. In fact, it is a demonic spirit, not only inside of the lesbian couple who are pretending to get married on this TV commercial, but now influencing and ruling in the heart of the ad executives who have decided at Zales Jewelers that they should promote this as a good thing to all of America. They are deceivers. They are fooling the American public, and we need to expose that as wrong.
Selling jewelry to lesbians. What?
You.
How dare you?
Oh, my goodness.
There's no way that could possibly benefit a diamond company to sell jewelry to... Oh, wait a minute. Now I'm seeing it. Just saw it. Just figured it out. Oops.
This whole untapped market. Of course they're going to try to get lesbians in there.
Yeah.
To buy diamonds for each other. Because there's also the very strong likelihood, considering that these are lesbians, that they don't want diamonds.
Yeah, you got to get them hooked on it. They got to go after the gay men too, because those men are probably not doing diamonds. They're just doing like just a gold bar or a gold band.
And you need to gaudy up that shit. You need some sparkle. You need some.
If there's
bling.
someone you can sell bling to, surely it's gay men.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, just like pear-shaped stone.
Yeah,
set in there would be lovely, absolutely lovely,
just beautiful.
And these and the lesbians, they.
One of whom, if this is a screenshot from that commercial,
yeah,
one of the lesbians in the commercial apparently is the bad woman in Superman 2. Do you remember her?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Doesn't that look just like her?
Well, yeah, the haircut is there.
Yeah, as played by Trinity from the Matrix.
Maybe her nose as well.
Anyway,
she's got the same
anyway,
schnoz.
So
they look happy though. Look at that ad.
They can't be happy. They're living in God's dungeon
the
of
worst
sin.
kind of sin.
The worst, not the worst kind, obviously, because that's gay men. Lesbians are pretty cool. I think universally, everybody's like, especially if they're pretty, they give them a bit of a pass.
Yeah.
So, not the worst. Obviously, if it were gay men, it would be the worst.
There are no evil penises involved.
Right.
Huh.
Guys touching other guys. Oh, it's
just
worst.
horrible.
How dare they?
It makes Mr. Klingenschmidt just feel oddly tingly inside.
All over his little Klingon body. He feels things. All right, we've had some folks write into us, and I'm going to read something.
Oh, good.
From one or two of them. Hey, Frank and Dan, this is Robin. I have been listening to since the beginning. Wow. That's a long time.
That is a long
time. We had no fanfare about crossing over the 5-year mark.
I know, and we did it.
We did it just like last month. We hit 5 years of doing this show.
Yeah.
And you and I did exactly nothing to celebrate it.
Well, I mean, we celebrated 250, didn't we? No, we didn't really.
No, we did nothing.
Oh.
We don't
Well,
care.
it's old hat now.
It's so boring.
Well,
we're bored.
Well, no, I mean,
kidding.
I think, here's the deal. We celebrated our first anniversary.
Yeah.
Because I think we were just really surprised
that we made it.
That we made it.
It's true.
And now it's just, I just show up every week at your house and
just do the show.
We sit down and record. It's just what we do.
5 years.
Yeah.
Listening since the beginning, says Robin. I am part of the USA National Track and Field program, the USATF. This is not a religious organization. The 1st of December, we had our national convention in Orlando, Florida, with all the delegates from around the nation. During the morning opening breakfast, they had someone lead all the delegates in prayer. The USATF should not take a stance on religion. It is for the athletes. Our athletes range from atheist, Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, Christian, and many more religious and religions and ethnicities. Mouth can't work. Stop. It didn't work. I'll try and get back into it. I'll try and free my tongue up a little bit here. All right. As my first time going as a delegate to the National Convention, I was horrified. I plan on sending a letter to the FFRF. However, due to my status in the organization, it's very difficult to give my name out. Anyway, just thought I'd let you know what goes on in the national world of track and field.
That's wow.
Great work, guys. I got
it's
news.
Everywhere, isn't it?
Well, here's the problem. You could let the FFRF know, but if it's a private organization, there's nothing the FFRF can do.
Yeah.
If they don't get public funding, they can do whatever they want to.
I guess that's the question. I don't know anything about the organization.
I don't either. But good luck. Yeah, I mean, if it were me, I would very much want to speak up for the people of minority religions. But I understand that, Robin, her position may be at stake.
Yeah.
For something like that.
Okay.
Who knows?
All right.
Well, good luck to you.
Yeah, of course.
Speaking of the FFRF, should we listen to a voicemail?
Let's do. This is from
Thane,
and it's a response to to a writer in from last week's show or the week prior.
Yeah, sometime recently we had a student write into us about prayer in school and how inappropriate that was, and we gave some advice, but Thane wants to add to that, and we're glad he does.
I'm calling about the situation, the girl in Tennessee who had some problems with her teachers and their overt religiosity. Calling to correct a little bit of a misapprehension. My son recently went through something a little bit similar. His football coach likes to hold prayers and picks players to give prayers. And, of course, they're evangelical, ultra-Jesus-y prayers because we live in Aurora, Colorado, second most religious city in the state of Colorado, only behind Colorado Springs. And so we contacted the FFRF, and they let us know some of the same things you said, that they'll they'll send a letter to the district and tell the district they handle it, and point out the violations. They asked for specific details, which we gave them. And then they told us that in most courts, not all, but in most, if there is action taken, they can often file the lawsuit anonymously. So the child's name is never revealed, and there's a court order that seals the child's name behind this cloud of anonymity. So anyway, so if she does want to take action by just sending a message to the SLIFR, you can go on their website, and they've got a form you fill out, and you give them as much information as you feel comfortable with, and then they can send you back and take action. They're currently doing so here at my son's high school in Aurora, Colorado, and hopefully maybe she can get some relief there in Tennessee as well. Anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks for all the work you do. Bye-bye.
Wonderful.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah, that's of course it makes sense that protecting a child
That's sometimes a consideration.
might sometimes be a concern for some people in our legal system. Not always,
Yeah.
but it can work fine sometimes. G'day, Frank and Dan from Down Under. This is Ray writing into us. I'm new to your podcast and an avid listener. I'm a funeral director in Brisbane, Australia, a city of about 1.5 million people. My job entails immersion into every culture and religion and ritual there is for safe passage into the afterlife. But when I stand in the mortuary fridge, all the deceased are the same kind of dead. That's true. What is your view from an evolutionary standpoint why humans, who we have been here for much longer than biblical perceptions, not evolved to accept death without having to create afterlife deities, existence guilt, and ferryman rituals? When did we become so afraid to die? I love what you guys bring to the conscious awareness. The world needs more Frank and Dan. From Australia, from Ray. Well, thank you, Ray. What a fascinating question.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like there's something inherent to humans about needing a send-off.
Well,
for a person.
The send-off is nice because it helps the living, become more settled with the fact that, this person's gone.
Right.
It's an official goodbye.
Right.
Right? We like to say goodbye. We don't like a lot of loose ends, I don't think.
Yeah.
With our relationships. But
we don't just move on. We're not
no.
robots.
No.
For God's sake.
No, dear God. Yeah, and there's a strong desire to not die, typically.
Well, yeah,
instinctual will to keep on living.
Yeah, you used the word evolutionary. My God, what greater evolutionary mandate do we have than to live?
Yeah. And so if you can convince yourself that, oh, well, I guess I'm not really dying. I'm not really going to die. I'm not really going to stop existing.
I just stop existing in this form. And then I get on a boat, and then they cross me across a river.
Yeah.
And then I go and I do a different thing.
Yeah. Forever.
Phase 2.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, really.
Right.
And
the stories
really
all sound horrifying.
Doesn't really make a lot of sense if you stop and think about it.
Just don't stop and
but
think.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna let that comfort me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that, eventually, it wouldn't take long if we had no explanations for what happened after we died. It would take exactly zero amount of time before somebody just started creating it. Because the second someone dies and a kid goes, what happened to that person? Someone's going to come up with a story.
Right.
It's just instant. It's just going to happen instantly. If you don't have a story at the ready, one will appear.
Well, what's wrong with saying, oh, they went away. They're dead.
They're gone for good.
Yeah.
That happens in this world.
Your body stops working.
Yeah.
Shuts down. And we dispose of your body.
And you should rightly be horrified because it will happen to you, Johnny.
And most likely in a painful way.
I mean, statistically, it's not going to be pretty.
No.
Your death is going to suck worse than this stupid life of yours.
Yeah. We like to delude ourselves. We like to think about the person who dies in their sleep. Yeah.
It's not going to happen to you.
My grandmother got that.
Years of pain.
The only one I know of in my life. Who that's what she got.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's
misery.
been some horrible things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Disease, for Christ's sake.
Right.
Not good.
No. My dad died in a horrible way. It's like the worst thing you can imagine.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that happy note.
I just like to always get that out there.
Yeah.
And I know that people, I don't know why, but people after a few years of knowing me stop calling. But I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with being kind of a downer at times. But
You're the worst.
But I like to point that one out. I like people just to contemplate and start preparing themselves.
Meditate on the misery of your own death.
Your death is like going to suck. It's going to be awful.
Yeah. Not mine though.
What is yours going to be?
I think, the second I start to see that writing on the wall, that I'm going to take that parachute and jump without the parachute.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
I will soar to my own death, to my demise.
You want to just take care of it? Take care of business? Be in control?
Take matters into my own hand. No, probably not. That's probably not what would happen.
Yeah.
But it's fun to fantasize about. Isn't that fun?
Woo!
Everybody, brace yourself. It's good times over here.
Frank and Dan.
It's Fun Times with Frank and Dan. Welcome to our new podcast, Fun Times with Frank and Dan,
where we just talk about death and dying.
Where all we do is talk about death and dying. Hello, Frank and Dan. This is coming to us from a person who wishes to remain anonymous. I wanted to thank you for reading and discussing one listener's letter about the difficulties and reservations they have in assisting a religious charity. I'm an atheist who has similar difficulties from the recipient side of things. I thought this was a really important thing. I was really glad that we got this email. I'm generally reluctant to apply to most such charities for aid because I expect to be preached at and prayed over, often with the implication that my circumstances are what they are because I don't believe in their deity. I don't think the issue gets discussed enough in atheist circles, though I have suggested it by writing into one or two other podcasts in the past, usually around this time of year. A few years ago, I went to a local food bank that was and is run by an interfaith group, and it was pretty much as I expected. They were serving hot meals at the same space as the staple food distribution, and I was there during mealtime. Due to my work hours, yes, I have a job. Everyone had to stop while a lengthy verbal prayer in Jesus' name was pronounced before they could eat. I suspect I looked as uncomfortable as I felt, and I was sure the preacher was sizing me up for some intervention. It was all I could do to stick it out and get the stuff I needed instead of flee the place, and I haven't been back since. Perhaps this seems to be complaining about a trifle, but I did not relish the prospect of having to hear their good news yet again, nor did I really need to be told I was ungrateful for not going along with their beliefs. Perhaps some of them are doing these things to be helpful, but it's difficult to avoid the impression that their assistance has some major strings attached, or that some of them are really there above all to win souls rather than to help. On a side note, I've also avoided attending one local atheist group's meetings because they tended to take place in a restaurant in a suburb that lacks good bus service. I do attend a humanitarian group that is on a bus line and often get a ride from one or another of the members. I understand that they do not have... Anyway, I'm sorry. This is a very long email, but I wanted to discuss that because I think that it's actually very important to talk about, thinking about the recipients of charity. I think that that's a really important thing. So yeah, I mean, supporting a charity that is religious, it's not just about, I don't want to support the religion. It's that I don't want to support the religious abuse of someone who's in need.
Right.
And I think that that's clear, but I wanted to underline that.
Yeah.
But then there's also this other thing is a call for atheist groups to think about those who can't. She goes on. He or she. Sorry, I don't know. Actually, no. I think anyway. Goes on to talk about how a lot of atheist groups meet in restaurants, and that makes sense because it's a free place to meet. Other than everyone sort of is expected to buy a meal,
Right.
and not everybody can afford to do that.
Yeah.
And everyone's expected to sort of get themselves there, and not everyone can afford to do that.
Right.
So I think that that's an interesting thing, a conundrum. I don't run an atheist group, and so I don't have to think about it much. But I thought I'd throw it out there because I know a lot of our listeners, are on a board of an atheist group or are sort of, in some leadership position in an atheist group. And I would love for all of you to just give you that to think about.
Yeah, it seems like it would be easy enough to set up a informal or formal ride program.
A ride program would be great.
Carpool in. I mean, you could make it even just be like, hey, everybody should carpool. If you're coming from the same part of town,
it's a green choice.
Save some gas, and if there's anybody along the way that you could pick up, if there's room in your car, and you have time and whatnot, of course. But surely something could become somebody could dream up something that would really help, and then you have the time in the car to chat and make a new friend.
Right, and you and I need to remember that when we have a meetup. Yeah, we'll have another one soon.
We'll figure out a ride.
We'll figure out a way to make sure that everybody's accommodated. Nobody has to feel left out because they don't want the embarrassment of not being able to afford a meal or whatever.
No. Okay.
Thanks for writing in, y'all.
Absolutely.
If you guys,
I have some people to thank, Dan.
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah, because we have this thing on Patreon. Which I would like to announce, by the way.
We have a big announcement.
We have officially met our goal.
Our first goal.
Yes. And so within the very, very, very near future, we are going to be videoing the two of us doing the show, and we'll be posting that on YouTube.
And this will be more than just putting a camera in
the room.
Yeah, we're going all out on this. So hopefully you guys will like that. The TGIA YouTube channel will be on fire.
That's happening
because of you guys.
Right. And so thank you so much to everybody who's helped out and helped us hit that goal. We actually have another goal coming up. And
this goal
it's actually not that much more than where we're at right now. So if we get people out, supporting the show, the next goal is we commit to doing 2 live shows a year where we travel out to wherever you guys want us to go.
Wherever you are.
In the 48, states.
And beyond if we can. But
this is
if we get some supplemental help.
Right.
But in the States, we are committed to, on our dime, coming to you, in these United States and doing a show and meeting all of you people. We want to get out there, so we'll be able to do that once we hit our next goal. Mm-hmm. And so, why don't we thank the people who helped us get to this goal?
Let's thank these folks. We have new. Let me get my little chart out. Here we go. We have new members of the faithful, Dan.
Yes.
Who I'd like to thank. Actually, one new member of the faithful, Shelley.
Shelley.
Thank you, Shelley. And then we have 2 new venerable listeners, Robbie and James.
Ooh.
So thank you guys.
We venerate you.
And then 2 new beatified listeners, Nora and Doug.
Awesome.
So thank you to everyone involved, and of course thanks to James, who's still
our Savior,
King of the show.
Amazing. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Podcast. Amen.
Amen.
Well, kids, today we have on the show Dr. Michael Ferguson. He's a brain scientist.
Ooh.
Do you study brains? I'm sure that there's a more official way of referring to that.
I do. I work with the Human Neuroscience Institute, and I love the brain.
It's a fancy little organ we got going on up in our noodles right there. Does a lot of fun things. Plenty for you to study, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. Lifetimes.
You are and I've forgotten it. You are a something at Cornell University. What's your current position there at Cornell?
So it's a postdoctoral associate.
Okay.
And I'm both a lecturer as well as a researcher.
Excellent. So the reason thank you so much, by the way, for coming on to our show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. It turns out you are deeply involved in some things that are very much of interest to us and hopefully to our listeners. So we've decided to do 2 interviews with you. This week we're going to talk about a study that you were involved in, that you were one of the authors on, and then next week we'll talk to you about a lawsuit that you were involved in, if that's all right with you.
That sounds great. Thank you.
So tell us, big headlines came out a couple weeks ago. Big headlines about this study at the University of Utah. That's basically, the whole study was revolving around proving that religion is like sex. Is that right?
That was our goal for the study, pretty much.
No, so that it was very funny. A lot of the headlines said, feeling the spirit is the same as having sex. It's the same. It triggers the same pleasure centers in the brain as having sex. I don't think that was what you guys were aiming at.
Another one that really made me laugh was a headline, and the headline explicitly said, "Religious individuals cannot distinguish prayer and heroin." I was like, "Oh man, that wasn't the conclusion."
That's a good one. So what the hell was your study about then?
So we were very curious to know what is going on inside of the brain of religious people when they're having experiences that they say are very, very real to them. Mm-hmm. So they're very highly subjective. But if it's so profound and so moving and associated with physiological responses, then this is something we should be able to see. And we designed an fMRI study. So fMRI is functional magnetic resonance imaging. And it is a tool that is transforming our understanding of human nature. Right. So there's tons to talk about with that. With fMRI, you're able to put people inside of, an enclosed space. And so you are limited as to the types of tasks and activities that the person can actually participate in. You are able, though, to have them watch audiovisual presentations. And, it turns out that for Mormons, for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that really important parts of their worship involve watching videos, whether it's general conference or going to the temple. It's like, or, meeting with the missionaries. Like Mormons and the LDS Church specifically has invested lots and lots of money to make really religiously evocative audiovisual presentations. Right. And so we thought, well, they've done the heavy lifting, actually. So let's just go ahead and plug that in and see what's happening inside of the brain. So we also had religious individuals participating in scripture study. Since, as I'm guessing lots of the listeners are familiar with, that a big part of Mormon faith life involves connecting to God through scriptures and through prayer. Right.
Now, the Mormon, the choice of, so your study specifically was a study of Mormons, at least at this level, right? You didn't look at anybody else.
We will eventually. This is the thing, is that fMRI studies are really expensive. Right. These are not small pieces of equipment, and they've got a big, unfortunate price tag associated with them. So this was, in some ways, a pilot study, meaning that we wanted to create a proof of concept. And now that we have successfully created a proof of concept for looking at discrete neural responses for mystical and spiritual practice, we're going to start seeking funding to do this more broadly. And so specifically, I really want to look inside of Catholic ecstatic religious experience and then also Muslim ecstatic religious experience.
Yeah, I think I think Mormons are a fascinating choice for the first study because Mormons are so trained, and both Frank and I were raised LDS. We're so well trained to quote unquote feel the Spirit. Like the pump is primed for that.
It doesn't take much.
As a matter of fact, Mormon men who don't exhibit any emotion anywhere else in their lives will cry their little eyes out when they get to church because of this training. So it's an interesting choice.
And there's actually really interesting molecular explanations for that. So this is, for the podcast listeners, I'll go actually a little bit beyond the data that we presented in this first paper because we have more data on these participants than we were able to publish in just one study.
Ooh, exclusive, TGIA only.
Exclusive. So one of the results that was really provocative was to look at levels of oxytocin.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's the good stuff.
Yep. Oxytocin is involved in bonding at multiple scales. And so intimate partner bonding, bonding with your group or your tribe or like your ethnic community, etc. That is where oxytocin really comes into play.
This is a brain chemical that we're talking about, right?
It is a brain chemical. It's a neurochemical, but it's also one that circulates through the entire body. And so it's released from the brain, but it has a top-down systemic effect.
Okay. And what did you find vis-a-vis oxytocin in this study?
So it appears, and I will put a caveat on this as well, that there are some issues right now in the field with oxytocin blood research, and that corresponding to neural levels. So there is a caveat here. But what we were able to observe is that the oxytocin levels in the blood were related to individuals having more sensitive responses to spiritual feelings.
Meaning, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I follow that.
Oh, so meaning that presumably if someone has a very strong attachment to the religious group or to the religious community or the religious identity, then they're going to have oxytocin released when they're having some kind of a religious cue that relates to families or to the church. And so what we were looking at in the study was the reward system, which is the nucleus accumbens. And it's got lots of molecules going on, but dopamine is the one that people think of a lot with reward. So the big picture here, as far as how these molecules are dancing back and forth with each other, is that it seems that if you have a strong attachment to your religious community, it bumps up your oxytocin and makes your nucleus accumbens more sensitive to these religious cues. So that, like you're saying, then you have guys who outside of Mormonism wouldn't be crying, but then they get inside of this setting of like a testimony meeting or a missionary zone conference where you've got your group that you're bonded to that's right there with you. Your oxytocin is flowing, making your brain really sensitive psychologically.
Right.
And then you start having that dopamine release that causes the chills and the crying and the burning in the bosom.
Interesting.
So now, what's interesting about this is to watch, comment sections in articles about this study, because you've got two groups of people interpreting these ideas entirely differently. On one side, you've got a bunch of believers going, see, this proves that it's true because look at how our brains light up when we have these experiences. And on the other side, you have a bunch of people going, see, this proves that it's not true because it's just a brain experience. It's not a spiritual experience.
Right.
What can you say about that?
So I'll speak in the same order in which you presented them. So to the individuals who are saying that by nature of there being some material aspect to feeling the Spirit, that it validates the epistemological truth and knowledge claims about religious doctrine, that you need to keep in mind that delusional thought is also a process in the brain. And so if you put schizotypy individuals and looked at what was happening in their brain when they were communing with dead relatives, you would see the same regions light up. There's basically there's an impoverished appreciation across the board for the way that thought is related to the brain. That if you're thinking about something, that means your brain is doing something. And so the simple fact that you can think about God is itself reason to assume that God will show up in your brain, so to speak, when you're thinking about God. But that would be really, really silly and circular to say that that somehow then proves the fact claims that you're making about God.
Right. Almost like, yes, like saying that the fact that God is mentioned in the Bible proves that the Bible's true or something like that.
Right. That if you're thinking about something, then your brain is going to be doing something. It's not interesting that your brain did something when you thought about something. What's interesting is, what did your brain do when you thought about something?
Yeah, and this is the fact that people is this an atypical response, or are people responding more strongly to this than they do to other stimuli?
Oh yeah, and it's also a very specific response. And this is what was fascinating, is that across the entire group, that it was the same neural signature.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So by way of contrast, because I've looked before at the brains of Zen monks when they were meditating. And in this particular study, when these Zen monks went into a state of self-transcendence, their brains all did different things from one another.
Oh, interesting. So somehow the practice of Zen doesn't lead to a universal brain experience, but the practice of Mormonism does?
Not in the same way. That there's a certain type of social conformity that is a key element in the religious training for Mormonism and for a lot of traditions, not just Mormonism.
Right.
But at least for this particular school of Zen monastics, there was not that same level of conformity effect that we saw within the Mormon population.
That I find actually very interesting. I don't. Do you have a sense of what could account for that difference?
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with the ideas that were associated with, the spiritual content for these Zen practitioners versus for the Mormon participants. So, for example, like within Mormonism, the peak, if you were to say to a typical Mormon, and we asked them, what are some of the most spiritual parts of your belief? Like, what is the most meaningful part of your belief? That it involves family. It involves the religious leaders themselves, so symbols of the religious community. And then also Jesus, which is like a personified, it's a human form that you can respond to conceptually in the same way that you can respond to other humans, versus a Zen type of self-transcendence where your target, the highest concept in the spiritual system, is not a personified form.
Right. It's barely a concept.
Right. It's not the attachment to your family.
Right.
It's not. I mean, it's like they're actually actively trying to not have attachments.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. When the goal is non-attachment, I can see how that would go in many different directions rather than a sort of attachment seems so focused and directed because you have an object of that attachment sort of presented to you.
That's right. So I would say that the underlying process in the brain, just like you're identifying on that axis of non-attachment versus attachment, is going to have this like normalizing effect, if you will, where what happens in the brain of Mormons when they think that they're being spiritual is unified by attachment-based processes. Then you add to that the conceptual indoctrination, where all of the concepts are also unified, versus, like you were just noting, with Zen, like the purpose is to not have a concept.
Right. Yeah, I can. That's. I'm fascinated. I could talk about this stuff for hours. I'm struggling really to keep this conversation something that our listeners would also find interesting.
Well, I think we could return. So we've talked about the one response and sort of online to the study. What about the other response?
What about all of us atheists who are convinced that this proves that God is just a figment of all of these Mormons' imaginations? What about us?
Yeah, I would say that. There's lots of things I would say. One of them is just a philosophical note that the observation that material systems can at least be co-participant in dualistic metaphysical systems does not and cannot be interpreted as a reduction or an elimination of a dualistic metaphysical hypothesis about the nature of the universe.
Damn it. Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But it does put constraints on it. And so if you can't eliminate it, but you can constrain it, that's still a pretty good step forward.
So talk to me about what that means, because you just used a heck of a lot of big words. Can we boil that down just a little bit?
Absolutely. What it means is that you can't just let people get away with saying whatever the heck they want to say about the way that the brain and the spirit interact with each other. And you have to reckon with the fact that if you're going to take seriously this metaphysical proposition that some personified, intelligent, invisible being is somehow interacting with that person and their brain,
right,
then your theory now has the onus upon it to incorporate why and how the spirit works with the reward system.
Right. Although, it makes sense to me that I will say that if I, as some sort of mystical being, were trying to interact with humans, dumping some dopamine into their system would be a good way for them to, if I have that power, I'm going to get them to like me. They'll enjoy my presence if I just trigger a little dope every now and then.
So then it becomes an interesting question theologically if you're interested in theology. If you're not interested in theology, then there are no interesting theological questions, and I respect that. But as to the ethics, like the divine ethics of this being, if this being now is able to tinker with human behavior and cognition in so powerful of a way, then what is the ethical threshold for the divine action of that being?
I think also what we're dealing with here very clearly, and you mentioned this when you started talking about the study at the beginning of our interview, is that we've also got a religion here. We don't have to place all of these ethical questions at the feet of the Almighty. We can also just talk about the ethics of this religion that produces a shit ton of really spiritual videos and really emotional.
Okay, so let me just put the dog whistle out that if any of your listeners want to get all investigative journalistic and look at the heart cell trademark, that would be really, really fascinating to do some digging around there. The heart cell trademark by Bonneville Communications was the patented technology that was being used to generate these media productions. It's now you can't find the heart cell trademark on Bonneville Communications website anymore. They've wizened up a little bit and taken that down.
Heart cell. You're saying
heart cell.
Spell that for me.
HEARTSELL.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was, but maybe CELL. I wasn't sure where they were going with that. But so this is an idea that they've used to try and directly manipulate people's emotions. Is that what you're claiming? Or what?
Yes.
Or what?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
And that now that they've covered their tracks for it.
Oh, the conspiracy theories will abound. I love it. And they don't have to be theories. It sounds like they are. Of course they're doing that. Of course they're going to invest in ways of more effectively releasing that dopamine, getting that oxytocin flowing. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But in your research, does that mean that you believe that these would be effective tools to draw people in or keep people in?
It depends what the objective is, right? If the objective is to train people into very strict socialized behavior that becomes habit forming, then that's great. You're doing a really good job. If the goal, if the goal is to like make people open to new experiences and to transcend their tribal loyalties, then
oh no, that's not the goal.
Maybe this is not the best way to do that.
No, that's nobody's goal. That's if you're running a religion, that's the opposite of the goal you want.
Yeah, this is why the quest of the rational mystic becomes a lone quest very quickly.
Did you just plug a book you haven't written yet? Is that what just happened? The quest of the rational mystic?
No, but that should be one.
Yeah, that's a title. You keep that. Keep that under wraps. Well, this is fascinating. Talk to me about where your research is going. What are you doing with this stuff? Where are you headed?
Yeah, so a couple of different directions. I really want to understand how moral development works in the brain. So if you were to take individuals who, let's imagine two different situations. One situation is just the normative developmental process. So these would be adolescents. That if you looked at the way that adolescents develop, both psychologically, but also at the neural and the functional level, a concept of morality. I would be really interested to see how these religious influences interact with that. And then are there other sources of moral education, that are not religious per se, from home life or just from social life or from school life, or just independent searching and being a thoughtful individual? And do those contribute to an individual's sense of what is good in the same way, meaning like through these basic strategies of representation through the reward system?
Right.
There's another really important region of the brain that lit up a lot when Mormons reported to be feeling the Spirit, and that's called the medial prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex is a region that, like speaking kind of fast and loose about the brain, it's like the region that makes us human, that, it supports a lot of our abstract thought processes.
Okay.
It's involved in moral values. It's involved in constructing our concept of selfhood and personhood.
Okay. That sounds like a pretty useful part of the brain.
Right. It's a pretty useful part of the brain. And so this is one of the things that actually speaks to the oversimplification in the media about saying that the brain response to spiritual feelings in Mormons is the same as the brain response to drugs. Because in a response where it's just a pure hit of reward from the drug, you're not going to get the involvement of these centers for higher thought.
Oh, right.
So there is something going on in the way that this person's worldview or view of self or moral value system is being reinforced when they're having a spiritual experience. So again, from the developmental point of view, I want to understand how are adolescents developing their sense of what is good and what is moral. And then a second set of individuals that I think would be really interesting to study are those who are going through some kind of a conversion process, where their moral framework is being transformed. And so these could be converts to a religion. These could be missionaries going through the MTC. These could be
MTC. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt and say MTC is the Mormon Missionary Training Center.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so you have a very regimented life. My companion in the MTC had never read the Book of Mormon before he went to the MTC. And so for a lot of individuals, they're like having their first real exposure to religious education and training.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I would be very interested to see how does the brain and the psychology of an individual transform in some kind of a process like this.
We need to hook you up with Peter Boghossian, who's a philosophy guy who wrote a manual for creating atheists, and who claims that he has this sort of the tools necessary to deconvert people from religion.
Interesting.
That might be an interesting direction for you to go.
Yeah, and if it's playing on the same processes here, I think that also, speaking in terms of just general conversion or general transformation of moral values, even outside of religion. Think about what happens when an individual joins the armed forces, that they go to boot camp where their entire moral structure is taken apart and replaced with something else.
Right.
And I'm very interested to see how, again, at the level of both the mind and the brain, how does that transformation actually take its consequences?
Fascinating stuff. I like it.
Yeah. I just basically outlined my next 20-year research agenda.
Well, we'll have you back on in 20 years then to talk about
perfect.
it. Well, Michael Ferguson, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll have you on again next week, and we'll next week we're going to be discussing something that isn't as scientifically fun, but is something, a very important topic. We're going to be talking about your involvement in a lawsuit about gay conversion therapy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that'll be really interesting.
Speaking of conversion,
yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. Now you've got your 40-year plan.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
You bet. Talk to you soon, guys.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was a treat.
That was nice having Michael on the show with us.
Absolutely. He'll be on next week, as we said. Hey, thanks to everybody I'm going to re-thank everybody who's a Patreon donor. What we didn't say last when we were talking about them is how other people can donate to us if they want to become a Patreon donor, which is to go to thankgodimatheist.com and just click on the Patreon button.
Yeah,
there.
And you'll see how to do it.
Yeah,
just follow the
it just sends you along, and then you just sign up for a recurring per show donation at your discretion. The amount is up to you to decide.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank Mackenzie for all her hard work on the Facebook page.
And thanks to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their music at the opening and the close of the show.
Right, and for the middle music, for that great organ music that we play, thank you to Gordon Johnson for that.
And thank you, dearest of listeners, for listening.
Yeah, we sure do appreciate it when you do.
Bye-bye.